Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. We are blessed to be here together to share truths, stories, and spirituality in this beautiful place, a place which has been the site of human gatherings for many thousands of years. We meet on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people, and we wish to honor the ancestral guardians of this land and its waterways. Today, many indigenous people continue to call this land home and act as its stewards. May we remember that the responsibility to share and care for this land extends to all people. So this territory may be a healthy home for generations to come. Today, as your worship associate, my name is Bill Park. I am very happy to welcome longtime member of our church, Tony Keller, to our pulpit as our guest speaker. Tony was born and grew up in Niagara Falls, New York, 82 years ago. After completing a Roman Catholic education, he attended the Pontifical Georgian University at the Vatican in Rome and was ordained a Catholic priest in December 1966. After 10 years in the Roman Catholic ministry, he left to marry. He searched dozens of churches for a spiritually satisfying home, first Catholic, then Protestant, finally settling on our own UUCB. Good choice, Tony. Where he has been a diversely active member for 36 years. We welcome you, Tony. We are sending our beloved Reverend Joan off with a big celebration after our church services today. We'll start shortly after this service with a program of musical and spoken tributes to Joan. If you have children in Camp Element, you'll have time to pick them up and bring them back for the program. Then we'll adjourn to the parish hall to enjoy delicious sandwiches, salads, and desserts. If you haven't yet signed the big card or written in the message book, you can still do that during lunch. Let's show Joan how much she's meant to our congregation over these 8 years of service and fellowship. Please plan to stay. I might mention she's not finished giving her gifts to us. Treasures from Joan's office are in the parish hall on a table. All are free to a good home. She encourages us to partake. Please see your printed order of service for more news of exciting ways to share in building our community. Now let us greet our neighbors. Speaking of building our community, I invite you to unveil the bonds that bind us to all. Take a moment to greet your neighbor. Say hello to someone you may not even know. Thanks, people. Say hello to Nick. Today's call to worship is from the Reverend Susan Magan, a U.S. Navy chaplain and a presenter at TEDx Gateway Arch Women. Call from beyond. From beyond the playful summer clouds, beyond the earth's thin blue line, from beyond the bright moon and meteor showers, we hear the call to look and listen carefully, to turn away from a world that buys and sells happiness, to fully experience the luring whisper of your heart's truth. Why not today? Why not now? We are here and together at home in this evolving place, home in this ever-changing breath and body, home in this dewy morning, even as it catches and reaches toward a hot high noon. We hear the call from far beyond and deep within, and we do not hear it alone. Come, let us worship together. Now, if you'll please stand for our lighting of the chalice.
We gather in loving community, creating a shared vision of compassion and dignity for all, to radically transform the world in which we live.
Now, if you remain standing for hymn number 103, For All the Saints. Every week, we take a good portion of our Sunday morning offering and give it away to a social justice cause outside our church walls. This month, we are supporting the good work of Buffalo Peace House, And here to welcome the gift is Paige Cohen.
Hi, thank you for having me today. I'm from the Buffalo Peace House. I'm the executive director. I just wanted to come and say a little bit of what we do. We provide safe and clean housing for asylum seekers that come to Buffalo. There's an important distinction between refugees and asylum seekers. Many refugees come, they get their working papers, social services. Asylum seekers come with little more than what they have on their back. Most of our asylum seekers come from really difficult backgrounds, victims of torture, people who fled on foot. So we're grateful for your contribution so we can feed and house everyone who's come through our doors from 65 countries, from infants to the elderly. Thank you.
To support our Share the Plate ministry, you can drop a check or cash in the offering plate. You can use PayPal by going to our website. You can send a check to the church through the mail, or you can arrange a regular automatic deposit with your bank. If yours is a gift to our Share the Plate ministry, please write share on the memo line, and it will be shared between Buffalo Peace House and the church operating budget. If yours is a welcome gift to our congregation, please write Pledge 2023 on the memo line. Either way, please write UUCB on the important line. Let our hearts be open to generosity and compassion. Today's reading are excerpts from an article appearing in the Buffalo Morning Express dated September 4th, 1906. New Church of Great Beauty. First Unitarian Church, almost completed, is one of the finest in Buffalo. Stained glass windows and organ are memorial gifts. Church will soon be opened. Of the many beautiful churches in this city, there is not one more beautiful, more artistic, and original in design than the recently built First Unitarian Church, which will probably be opened for its first service within a fortnight. It is situated on the corner of Elmwood Avenue and Ferry Street on a site donated by John J. Albright. The architect is Edward A. Kent. The church is a stone structure, and its style is that of the early English Gothic. Interior walls are of the same stone as the exterior and are devoid of decoration. The floor is also stone. One of the principal charms of the interior is its absolute simplicity, a simplicity which is the utmost refinement of art. The ceiling is of wood with handsome Gothic trusses, the bases of which are resting on stone corbels about 10 feet above the floor. These stone blocks are now plain, but as it is expected that at some future time there will be ornamental with carving. All the woodwork of the interior is dark weathered oak of exquisite satin-like grain. The carved reredos back of the pulpit is a beautiful piece of work, and it, with the pulpit and the 3 chairs, is a production of a buffalo firm. The chairs are Gothic, the center one larger than the others, and having a canopy on top. The pews, which correspond in color and carving with the reredos and pulpit, have comfortable sloping backs. Those situated in the transept are placed somewhat obliquely, so as to command an equally good view of the pulpit with those in the center of the church. The Gothic design dominates all the woodwork so that it is in keeping with the architecture of the building in all respects. At the rear of the auditorium is a handsome windscreen of carved wood, the upper part filled in with glass. A large factor in the beauty of the First Unitarian Church is an array of stained glass windows, which there are 2 transept, 1 pulpit, and 6 nave windows. These were all given to the church by Mrs. E.C. Sprague and her sons, Harry Ware and Carlton Sprague, as a memorial of Noah P. and E. Carlton Sprague. They were designed by the Goodhue firm of Boston. The east transept window is of a special interest because of the story connected with its design. The central figure is that of the Good Shepherd, but it is wholly unlike the conventional representation of Christ. It shows a beardless youth of rather martial aspect, clad in a red tunic, the right hand grasping a staff, and the left shoulder bearing a lamb. This is a reproduction of the earliest known representation of Christ, which was found in the catacombs of Rome. Beneath the figure is the text, "And goeth into the mountains, and seekest that which is gone astray." The west transept window has as its central figure the prophet Isaiah. The verse underneath is this: "Trust ye in the Lord forever, and for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength." The window in the back of the pulpit and rising above the exquisite tracery line of the reredos has no marked design. It's a mass of soft dark reds shading into lighter tones, contrasted with a bit of clear green and a little touch of purple. It is very restful to the eye. The nave windows all show a grapevine pattern with tracery of vine, leaf, and bunches of grapes in charming design and color. Each window bears one of the Beatitudes. Now for our pastoral prayer. If you'd please refer to your handout in your order of service. I will function as the reader to start us, and then the congregation has a role which will be facilitated by a church worship associate, the Reverend Fran Manley, and you can work with her. It's O Divine Spirit by the Reverend Tess Baumberger, a hospital chaplain and UU parish minister. O Divine Spirit, healer of my hurts, consoler of my sorrows, vibrant light of happiness, birther of all life and gentle way of death, hear my prayer. I raise my heart to you as do the ancient redwoods, rooted in the ground, swaying in the wind.
I praise and thank you for my life, gifts of body and essence, strength to bear life's burdens, grace to dance life's joys.
I praise and thank you for my life, gifts of eyes and heart that fill with beauty smiling or with pain and sadness weeping.
I praise and thank you for my life, gifts of ears to hear, words of grace and wisdom, to listen and lighten the burdens of others.
I praise and thank you for my life, my voice to sing out praises, to speak my truths and visions, to share myself with others.
I praise and thank you for my life, gifts of all my senses, rhythm of my heartbeat, rise and fall of my breathing, the will to live with passion, serenity, joy.
Spirit, guide me to a deeper knowing of your presence in the world. Show me the deeper meanings of the patterns of my years. Help me regard myself and others with eyes of calm compassion. Teach me to learn patience with their failings and my own. Help me accept the mold and fashion of my life through marching years.
In the names of all who perceive your transcendental presence, in trees and brooks and mountains, in work and play and resting, in all moments and places
in between.
Amen.
Amen.
And blessed be.
Beautiful words about gratitude and presence from Tess Baumberger. Today, we especially hold in our hearts those celebrating joy. Josh and Phyllis Disick, who are celebrating their 16th wedding anniversary. Leslie Bolt, who participated in an American citizenship ceremony on July 4th. Those experiencing concerns, Dick and Hope Krause, remembering his cousin Dolores, who passed away on July 7th. She was the oldest surviving member of his family. Doug Sherman, in hospital with infection, and we send him healing thoughts. He's expected home today. And now let us fill this sanctuary with the names of all our loved ones, suffering in sorrow and celebrating in joy. Each breath, each name a breath, each breath a prayer. In this quiet moment, the breath of nature is upon us, the spirit of life is within us, and the community of love is among us. So be it, blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.
The purpose of this sermon is to reach persons who are new to the activities of this church. You may have been 15 years here, but never gone to a congregational meeting, attended a class, volunteered for something, been on a committee or a ministry. I want to describe for you some persistent persons in the history of this church and some pleasant places, all of them uniquely Unitarian Universalist, hoping to inspire you to share your time and your talents. My introduction to this congregation was perhaps unusual. I was, as you heard, a Catholic priest for 10 years, left to marry. Then for 9 years, went from one church to another, searching for my permanent spiritual home. Then on a summer Sunday in 1986, I came here. And I was surprised that the congregation had hired an acting troupe to act out situations that might occur in a church. They were ingenious. I could describe a dozen of them, but one stands out. A glower figure in a black robe comes to the pulpit. He inspects the congregation and intones, "Dearly beloved, there is one thing missing from our practice of religion." Pause. That missing facet is sacrifice. Therefore, the sacrifice for today will be the person in pew number 3, seat number 2. All of a sudden, 2 ushers hustle out of the back of the church, and they grasp an unsuspecting and surprised young woman and wrestle her toward the parish hall doors. Just as they are about to exit, she screams, "Wait, wait, it won't work. I'm not a virgin." I think it was at that moment that I knew this was my kind of church. Carolyn Epps. One of the first persons I met at this church was Carolyn Epps. She belonged to everything. She was the chairperson of half of the groups that she belonged to, and she was especially interested in newcomers. That's how I got to know and finally was invited to her house for a gathering where I discovered something very interesting about Unitarian Universalists. They know each other by name. This wasn't the case where I came from. Catholics do not know each other by name. On the rare event that we had a parish meeting, if a lay person got up to talk, one of the priests had to explain who this was and why they were preaching. Not so you-yous. Praise be the coffee hour. One of the most endearing places on our grounds, and we've got an acre of it, is what I call the Corton tree. You go out the garden entrance, you point to the right, and you take the pathway toward Elmwood, keep pointing to the right, and all the while you've been pointing toward the Corton tree. Now this tree has a branch parallel to the ground, and on any warm Sunday, you can see kids on it swinging, walking, doing acrobatics. Sometimes they're just sitting and chatting. I don't know what they're chatting about. All I know is that I taught Sunday school RE 20 years ago, and 2 of my 5th graders have been married in this sanctuary and have at least 1 child. That's why I call it the Corton tree. Judy Kiefer, the longest standing ovation I have heard in this church was about 2001 for Judy Kiefer. She was being recognized for having led the Capitol campaign, which raised something approaching $1 million. Her husband was a lawyer and unfortunately predeceased her. But at his memorial service, I heard one of the most convincing and memorable compliments to Jim Kiefer. The place was filled with lawyers, and one of them, sitting about over there, got up and he said, "I'm glad this church is so liberal, I can stand up here in the pew and speak to the congregation." Luckily, he had a voice that was capable of projecting. He said that our profession, Jim and me, as being lawyers, this is very competitive. Sometimes there are hard feelings, but of all the lawyers I know, not one of them disliked Jim Kiefer. The trysting bench. The trysting bench is located in the Memorial Garden off by Brittany Lane. You look for the big red tree, that's a Japanese maple, and next to it there's a pathway lined with arbor vitae. And hollowed out of the arbor vitae is a nice notch with a stone bench at the bottom, just big enough for 2 people. It is an ideal meeting place for 2 or 1 person just to meditate. It's perfectly shaded, perfectly private, can't be seen from any place else, and you see just the tree and the flowers. Bill Gardner. Bill Gardner is also one of our lawyers. He successfully argued a case before the Supreme Court that was very beneficial to the LGBT community. Closer to home, Bill led a series of financial and building projects ranging from the restoration of the Alliance Room to a new floor on the parish hall and our parking lot, complete with a rain garden on the slope down into Elmwood Avenue. The labyrinth. In approximately 2005, word went out that this church was going to construct a labyrinth, which is a circular system of pathways for meditation. It is a spiritual location. It is mentioned in ancient Greek mythology, and even before then. 45 volunteers showed up on 4 successive Saturdays, and they dug trenches for the pavers that would show the edges of the pathway. They carried the heavy pavers to the location. In order to denote how ancient this labyrinth was in its first ideas, we wanted someone who could represent a religion that predated all of the religions in Buffalo. And so we sought out someone very knowledgeable and active with the Wiccan belief system, and that was Marilyn Bell Schwade. And she did such a wonderful job. Maria Testa. Maria Testa does everything with grace and knowledge and professionalism, from raising money in auctions and the annual fund drive. Her husband, Tom Petrocelli, is very successful with our youth group, after having been the treasurer of the Board of Trustees for many years. And now a facet of our building, maybe not quite as endearing as the Corton tree or the trysting bench, and that is the stairs going up to the choir loft. If you've ever taken them, you notice that a very large person probably would not fit. And you've got stone on the right, stone on the left, stone above, stone below. It's like a diagonal sarcophagus. If you transit these stairs, make your transit brief. Now, you get a number of UUs together from this church and ask them what are the 2 main assets of this congregation. And after hemming and hawing, because UUs take a while to come to consensus, they would probably say the choir and the garden. First, the choir. You've heard the phrase, preaching to the choir. It's a negative phrase. You don't preach to the choir. They are the most informed, the most dedicated people around. They don't need any corrective preaching. They are a wonderful singing group, and accolades to anybody who can take the discipline of their practices. They benefited from the 50-year ministry of Barbara Wagner as their minister of music. And Barbara did so much, but there's one remark that I remember. The choir, our choir, was going on a gig to another church, Holy Trinity Lutheran, which also has a wonderful choir. And they were putting on a production of Ezekiel. They needed 2 choirs. They needed a choir for the children of Israel, the good guys. That was the Lutherans. And they needed a choir, the children of the pagan god Baal, the bad guys. Guess who that was? Barbara Wagner said, "We were typecast." This music tradition continues under Dr. Jessie Downs. When she put on her recent production of the Purcell opera Dido and Aeneas, I murmured to myself, and I later told her, this is one of the major music milestones in our music program. The other asset, the garden. Again, we benefited from a giant, a worker every day, just wonderful, Nancy Thomas. Nancy Thomas was recognized as a master gardener by the Cornell University Extension Society. She's retired now in the Carolinas with her daughter, and is replaced in some way by a group of volunteers, and oh, we need more volunteers in the garden. And they, in turn, are greatly enriched by the advice and work right alongside them of Bridget Evans, who is a professional in the gardening world. So there you have it. I've tried to elucidate some persistent persons, some pleasant places, uniquely you, hoping to inspire your giftedness. You may not have it quite within you to lead a project to make almost $1 million, but you can certainly rake a leaf or carry a brick. Your talents have a place here that may be calling you right now. Answer the call. You are welcome here.
Please stand as you are able and join in hymn 358, Rank by Rank, Again We Stand.
Let us recite the extinguishing of the chalice. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love. You all have your giftedness. The magic happens when we share this giftedness, and that is why you are not alone. You are never alone. And let the congregation say, Amen.
In just 5 minutes here with the program starting with tributes to Joan. See you soon.